Hi, I'm Mitch Copeland, and the topic of this talk is CancerRxApprove, write letters for cancer drug prior authorization denials. This project is done in a hackathon sponsored by Databricks. So what are prior authorization denials and what happens when they're denied? Prior authorizations are a process used by insurance companies to determine if a prescribed product or service will be covered prior to delivering the care. This is typically used for very high-cost items such as surgery, MRIs, or chemotherapy, where costs can be around $100,000 per patient. On average, healthcare insurance companies deny around 1.4% of these prior authorization requests, and given that around 1 in 3 Americans will receive a cancer diagnosis within their lifetime, this actually amounts to a lot of people. Sometimes these denials are mistakes, and if a clinician wants to appeal the mistake, they often must manually write letters to insurance companies to appeal them. This process leads to increased provider administrative work, physician burnout, and ultimately worse outcomes for the patient as they're waiting for this all to happen before they can get their care. So the problem we're addressing is that clinicians must write letters to insurance companies to appeal prior authorization denials, which ends up taking up valuable time and is worse for the patient. The solution we propose is that we could use large language models, fine-tuned with cancer data, to write these letters using only a short clinical description of the case as a prompt. So how would clinicians use a tool like this? Well, they would just input a clinical description of the case, like you see above, Jane Smith, a patient with breast cancer who was denied trazimumab. The output would be the letter you see on the right-hand side, which is quite long, but you can see I just wanted to highlight one particular sentence, which cites a study done in 2011 that is relevant to this case. And this was not hallucinated. This is a real study that took place and actually supports the fact that the drug is indicated. So how did we build this? Well, first we experimented with several open source LLMs. We then found public data sets on cancer drugs and transformed them into custom data set. We then used that custom data set to fine-tune the open source LLMs. Finally, we ranked the LLM output letters on a scale from 1 to 10 to evaluate their performance. Below, you can see a prompt and response, which is an example of fine-tuning data we use to feed into the LLM. In this case, you can see that we're just asking for some details about a drug, and we expect the LLM to know some details about when the FDA approved this drug and when it's indicated to be used. So here are results of 3 open source LLMs that we experimented with. You can see on the x-axis that these 3 models were the Google Flan T5, the Databricks DALI 3 billion parameter model, and the UAE Falcon 7 billion parameter model. On the y-axis, you can see their score ranked on a scale from 0 to 10. In all cases, the fine-tuned model was equal to or better than the base model, which is encouraging because it means that these LLMs are actually learning from the cancer data we're fine-tuning them on, and that can be reflected in the letters. The top performing model was the UAE Falcon 7 billion parameter model, and this is what we actually deployed to our app, which is currently live, and it has a very simple UI where clinicians can just paste in some details of the case, click generate letter, and you can see that the letter is output here. In this case, we preloaded it because it still takes 5 to 10 seconds at inference time to generate the letter. So a conclusion and some next steps for the CancerRx project are that we believe we've shown that LLMs can be used to write well-crafted letters with minimal prompts to save doctors time and speeds up the time and delays in which patients can receive their life-saving drugs. We would love to pilot this with a small cancer care center and do some more experimenting with larger language models and more robust fine-tuning. We'd also like to do continuous retraining as new drugs are constantly being discovered and approved by the FDA. And finally, integrating this project into the electronic health record will speed up everything and allow us to process protected health information. Thank you very much.